If you enjoy any of the videos on the channel, feel free to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by. Let's talk about the new model and thoughts about maybe some synergy he might have with our army. I don't mind the look of him. Without his helmet, he kind of does look a little short, but I like him with his helmet a lot more. Some of the angles do look better. Maybe somehow you can add something between the legs or something. Maybe put his legs a little close together, something. Quite a bit of space between his legs looks a little bit weird, but I do like the look of him. I like how he looks like an old Greek Spartan soldier or something like that. It's more, if you look at the old Custodes artwork, they do have a lot of that Greek kind of look to them, so I do like the look of this fella. He does look, yes, sometimes he does look a bit short, but I like how chonky he looks. And it's a new model, it's a new Custodes model. I don't really like that it's another shield captain. I would have liked another character, or even better, I was really hoping this was going to be a kit, like almost like the guard kit, where you get some of these Melta Spear Custodes as well as some of the pieces to build a captain out of. So that's a little disappointing. So instead of focusing on what he looks like, let's talk a little bit about the synergy he might have with some of the other units in our army. This is my Valerian shield captain kind of proxy model. We're just going to use him as just a proxy while we talk about the model. So another thing is we don't quite know if he's still going to have the same abilities as a regular shield captain. I'm guessing he's going to have the 0 CP battle tactics strategy that most captains have, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to have the regular 2 katas or 3 once per game. I really hope he has a +1 to wound to vehicles or something for the unit. It would really help one of the units I'm going to talk about. Other than that, it's really going to take the viability off. If he's just a shield captain with a Melta Spear and 1 more wound because of the shield, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. He might have some synergy with some other detachments because we don't know the detachments, but I'm hoping that the war gear that does make him a little bit of a different selection, so it's not just a shield captain with a different model. The only concrete information we've got about this fella is the weapon stats. So the weapon is just like the Melta Spears from the Forge World guys. 1 attack, hit on 2s, strength 9, AP4, D6, Melta 2. Strength 9 makes your wounding most vehicles on 5s. Yes, you can get the rerolls from the guard, but that's not going to cut it. Hopefully we'll get attached with stratagem or an ability, or he might have an ability that might add some sort of +1 to wound against vehicles, because if not, it's not the best attack. But we'll wait and see what happens. But for now, let's talk about some of the units that either way he should have some synergy with and some not the best synergy with. So we'll first talk about the Wardens. I think the Wardens, they'll have the least synergy with this captain, especially if he has some sort of anti-vehicle or shooting ability, even if it is the regular shield captain ability. Especially if he has the other war gear, they'll probably point him a little more, so he'll just be the more expensive shield captain. And the Wardens don't add any kind of synergy for shooting with the spear, so really I can't see him having that much use in the Wardens. Next we just have the regular Custodian Guard. So the regular Custodian Guard will have a little more synergy with this fella, especially since they do have the shoot once per game twice, and they do have the reroll wounds if you're on objectives, so the 1 shooting spear will have a little more synergy with these guys. But still, if he's going to be a little more points, because I'm guessing with the Melta Spear and the shield, they're just going to cost him more, probably 20 more points or something like that. He's really not going to be worth taking. Even over Valerian, I still take Valerian over this fella just for Custodian Guard. He's just not going to add a lot. Even if he does have some sort of +1 to wound against ranged against vehicles, I would love him to have is a +1 to wound for your unit for ranged attacks versus vehicles. It would really bring the viability and the synergy with other units with this fella up. But even then, if he has that, it's really not going to help the Custodian Guards. You're wounding vehicles on 6s with ranged. And if this fella, even with the +1 to wound against vehicles, it'd be 5s, the rerolls, if you're on objective, it just wouldn't be enough. So there's not a lot of synergy with him and the regular Custodian Guard. It looks like this guy might be a Forge World character, really, which is nice because we don't really have a lot. 2 units left, and these are the ones that I'm more going to be running with this guy. So first we have the Sagittarum. So the Sagittarum are already shooting unit, so with any kind of buff to shooting with his abilities, even if not, I'd rather have this fella with the Sagittarum than a regular shield captain, because he does have some shooting too. But as we went over, the shooting does have its drawbacks with the range, because these have a range of 36, the Sagittarum heavy bolter guns. This fella only has a range of 12. It's really going to be the buffs that he adds to the unit. And so, like I said, we don't know the detachments yet, so there might be some detachments that the 0 CP for battle tactic really helps some range units, and so it can really bring up the synergy with the detachment in some of these units if he can kind of add some of the battle tactics. He has some of his own shooting. We'll see how that goes. For now, the Sagittarum are probably the second best unit to put him with if you want him for range, because that's really what I'm going to try to use him for, is a more ranged eccentric infantry unit. But even then, these Sagittarum were only 3 shots each, hitting on 2, strength 5, AP 1, damage 2, and they're quite expensive. Their other ability is they can once per game give their guns devastating wounds, which sounds awesome, but you just don't really get that many. Even if you spike, it's just not doing that much compared to just running into them with a blob of Custodian Guard. Hopefully there'll be a little more detachment synergy with the Sagittarum, so we can start bringing some of these Forge World units. We do have some of the Forge World, and it'd be nice to be able to kind of add them back into our list. Now to our final unit. So this is the unit I'll be running him with first, just to see how it goes. Really, you can make this unit yourself just by getting some Melta barrels and just gluing them onto the end of these spears, because these units are just a Custodian Guard kit with a different spear. You have to get the spear from Forge World. It's just as expensive as buying the Custodian Guard themselves. If you have any Meltas around or anything, you can kind of kit bash into some Melta barrels and smash them to the end of your spears. I would do that. But I think this is going to be the premier unit to run this fella with. I'm hoping. And like I keep saying, this guy's just another shield captain with a little bit different war gear, but more expensive. I'll use him, of course, just because I want to see him. He's a new model and everything, but it'll be hard to find places for him in the army. This unit is the Custodian Guard with the Melta Spears. You can take another spear, I think it's the Adarasite Spears, and they're AP2 damage 3. 1 shot each. Each of these spears are only 1 shot, and this one does have 18-inch range, but I'm going to use the Melta Spear. And it only has 12-inch range, which, it's not the best. I'd rather have a Melta profile spear, so 18-inch range. 12-inch range, it really does not help, but it's the best we have. Hits on 2s, 1 shot, strength 9, AP 4, D6, Melta 2. If this guy does add a +1 to wound with your range against vehicles, that'll really help, because if not, even these guys aren't really going to be your premier anti-tank shooting unit. They do have the regular Custodian Guard ability where they re-roll their wounds if you're on objective. But even then, it's going to be an objective you have to control. You have to be 12 inches away, preferably 6 inches away from the vehicle you're targeting. And then you're still going to be wounding on 5s if this guy doesn't have any +1 to wound against vehicles. Hopefully there's a detachment that kind of can add that. If not, you're going to be wounding on 5s, re-rolling your wound, so that's really not going to translate to a lot of damage. And then their other special ability is once per battle, lethal hits on your ranged weapons, and they ignore cover. And to be honest, the ignore cover is the best thing out of it, because lethal hits sounds awesome, but that's only out of 5 attacks. 6 attacks if you include the captain. So it's just not a lot. It sounds really awesome. It'd be better if this was all game, because then you could kind of get this translating a few times and then it would make it worth it. But once per battle, it's just not really worth it. The ignore cover is the best thing, so it can help their 1 round of shooting. The points of this unit, because this unit is 300 points, so that's quite a bit more points than 5 Custodian Guard. 5 Custodian Guards, 225, 5 Wardens, 250. Quite pricey. Hopefully this unit will go down in price. Either way, I'm still going to try to find a way to use it. That second ability is not the best. And another knock on the Melta Spear unit is the fact that they're not assault. They're not the same as Custodian Guard where you can advance them, get on where you need to be, and still do some shooting. These guys will only be able to move their 6 and then shoot. Probably going to have to put them in deep strike, have them come down, wham, 9 inches away from the enemy, shoot them. That way you won't have to worry about any range problems. And so those are the 4 units that you can run with this fella. Especially if he's just like a regular shield captain, the units he can join, it'll be the Guard, Wardens, and then the Forge World, Sagittarum, and the Melta Spear Custodes. So, like I said, the Melta Spear ones are the most intriguing of all the units, especially if he does have any kind of anti-vehicle abilities or anything like that. If not, I would say probably because he'll have a little more wounds, he'll hit a little harder, he'll be able to re-roll his wounds for his range if he's on objective, because the Wardens are nice, but if you're going to take this guy for that little extra points for that shooting weapon, you're going to want to bring him with a unit that can take advantage of that shooting weapon as much as possible, because yes, the Wardens are nice, but I'd rather just put Trajan or a regular shield captain with those Wardens, or even a Blade Guard, before I put a few more points costed shield captain with them. So that's my ideas and my thoughts for this unit. I didn't want to bash on what he looked like and talk about what he looked like as much as talk about some of the synergy he might have with our army. When we don't know the detachments yet, we don't know what his other ability, it might be the same as any other shield captain. Until then, we'll just be hopeful, and I'm still grateful for a new model. It's only one new model so far, but I'm still grateful to have a new model. I'm still relatively new into Warhammer. It's been only 2 years, but I'm excited. It should be a good time. I'm going to be getting the box, so if you want to see what he does, what he looks like, subscribe. I'll have him on here as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Thanks for stopping by.